Right, let's go now after we have discussed that the doctor was not here. Putting the hand, the right on the left after the ruku, we established this is not from the sunnah. We go now straight away to the sujood. Now there was a question from a brother, I think Irfan, who's Irfan? Asked me about every bone goes back to its place. Every bone goes back to its place, it means, the bones of your back. So when you raise up your head, every mifsal, every joint goes back, it means the faqarat al-dhahr, that is the spine of your back. That is when it goes straight, that's what it means. Okay? Allahu a'lam. Fadl.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Page 51. Today is our 27th lesson on the Prophet ﷺ's prayer described by Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah. The sujood, prostration. Next, he ﷺ would say takbir and go down into sajda, and he ordered the one who prayed badly to do so, saying to him, no one's prayer is complete unless he says Sami Allahu liman hamida and stands up straight, then says Allahu Akbar and prostrates such that his joints are at rest.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. After praising Allah and passing salutation upon His Messenger, we go ahead, and tonight it is the 12th night, it's the 11th day, the 12th night of Rabi' al-Thani, and the title is As-Sujud. In the Shaykh Al-Albani's Asl al-Salah, he had put another title, which we want to add as well. After the Sujud, you will find subtitles. From those subtitles that you are going to go on later on to it, is Al-Ghurabaa ila sujudi ala al-yadayn, to go down to the sujood onto your hand. You remember that? You see that? Yes? Going? Okay. So that is before we start the hadith, which says that the Prophet of Allah is to make takbir and go to sujood. There's a subtitle there. Subtitle is At-Takbir, that is making takbir, raising up the hands when you go down to the sujood. That's the title. At-Takbir, and raising up the hands when you go to the sujood. That's the title. The hadith is, then the Prophet ﷺ used to make takbir and go down to the sujood. And this is as well followed up by what he had commanded, al-musi'i salata. He had commanded the one who did wrong prayer. And we know the hadith al-musi'i salata. Musi'i salata, we have established the fact, everybody knows that. The person who made a mistake, Prophet of Allah, he returned him 3 times, and then he started to tell him what is the prayer is all about. Then he said to him, also he said, لا تتم صلاة لأحد, that this prayer will not be complete. That means whatever is coming now is pillars. من حتى, and then he says here, يقول سمع الله لمن حمده, and it goes up. يستوي قائما, upright. ثم يقول الله أكبر, then he says الله أكبر. ثم يسجد, then he prostrate حتى تطمئن مفاصله, until when he makes sujood, his spine also is like straight. So it's not making a hump. So when he makes sujood as well, he is straight. قال وكان إذا أراد أن يسجد كبر. So he used to as well, whenever he makes sujood, he makes takbir. ويجافي بين يديه أو يجافي يديه عن جنبيه, and he will put his hands away from his sides. Then he would prostrate. So he would be putting his hands after he makes takbir Allahu Akbar, and then he goes to the sujood, as we're going to explain inshallah practically in a minute. Then he says وَكَانَ أَحْيَانًا يَرْفَعُ يَدَيْهِ إِذَا سَجَدَ. You read that as well?
Also, when he ﷺ wanted to perform sajda, he would say takbir, separate his hands from his sides, and then perform sajda. Sometimes he ﷺ would raise his hands when performing sajda.
Do you have a footnote for that?
Yes.
Please read it.
An-Nasa'i, Daraqutni, and Mukhlis in Fawaid with 2 Sahih isnads. This raising of hands has been reported from 10 companions, and a number of Salaf viewed it as correct. Among them, Ibn Umar, Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma, Hassan al-Basri, Tawus, his son Abdullah, Nafi, the freed slave of Ibn Umar, Salim, the son of Ibn Umar, Qasim bin Muhammad, Abdullah bin Dinar, and Ata. Also, Abdurrahman bin Mahdi said, this is from the Sunnah. It was practiced by the Imam of the Sunnah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and it has been quoted from Malik and Shafi'i.
Now let's go to the hadith regarding those issues. Hadith Malik ibn al-Huwayrith, he said that he have seen the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam raised up his hands in his salah. This is not in your book, this is in the book of the Shaykh Al-Albani, which is the Asl. Raised up his hand in his salah when he had bowed. And he raised up his hand when he got up from the ruku', from bowing, and when he made sujood, and when he lifted up his head from his sujood, until he would match, or he would make his hands in level with the earlobe of his ears. So his thumb would be like that. So every time he raised up his hands, he would be in parallel to the earlobe of his ears. This is hadith is in An-Nasa'i, and he had made a chapter title for it, Babu Raf'ul Yadayn lis-Sujud, chapter to raise up the hands for the sujood. And another one, Babu Raf'ul Yadayn inda Raf'i min as-Sajdati al-Ula. Also he made a chapter title for this hadith, to raise up the hands after you finish the sajda, the first sajda, and before you go into the second sajda. So let's just now understand what we're talking about here in this hadith, that the Prophet of Allah, in every going down or going up, he would what? Raise up his hands. We know now the raising up of the hands, which is mutawatir from all the companions that they talked about, is takbiratul ihram, going to the ruku' and raising up from what? From the ruku'. But we got another one. Raise up the hands with Allahu Akbar. The one before that, it was raising up the hands with what? Rabbana wa lakal hamd. So this is Rabbana wa lakal hamd, and after that, Allahu Akbar, raising up the hands with that takbir to go to the sujood. Wa'il ibn Hujr, he says, I have seen the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam raised up his hand when he had opened his prayer, when he made ruku', and when he made sujood. Another narration Shaykh Al-Albani brings, that is, which is that the Prophet of Allah, he used to make takbir if he goes down, takbir if he goes up, and he would raise up his hand with a takbir. So every time there's a takbir, there is what? Raising up of the hands. And this is, he says, Shaykh Al-Albani, يفيد الرفع مع كل تكبير. This will indicate raising up the hands with every takbir. Third hadith, Anas radiallahu anhu وارضاه, said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, كان يرفع يديه إذا دخل في الصلاة. He would raise up his hand when he starts his prayer, which is takbir al-ihram. وإذا ركع, goes to ruku'. وإذا رفع رأسه من الركوع, and when he goes up from the ruku'. وإذا سجد, when he goes down to the sujood. So this is as well clear indication, which is to raise up the hands when you go to the sujood. Fourth hadith, Abdullah ibn Umar, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to raise up his hand when he makes the takbir for the ruku', and when he makes takbir for going down for the sujood. Now, also, that is Abdullah ibn Umar, another narration, he says, he used to raise up his hand when he starts the prayer, and when he makes ruku', when he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, when he prostrates as well. So all of that. So he raises up his hand when he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida. This is the answer for that person who said to me, which one takbir? Sami Allahu liman hamida. So he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lak. So when he says, Sami Allahu Rabbana wa lakal hamd, then he makes sujood, and then between the two sajda, and he would raise them up. He says up to his chest. That means maybe the up to rafa'ahuma ila thadyayn, meaning like above his breast. And those ahadith, Shaykh Al-Albani says that to make the rafa' in every going down and going up, we must take them, and we should not refute them or deny them, because there are other narrations which says that there is no rafa'. And where we know from the usul, al-muthbat muqaddam ala al-nafi. What does that mean? If a hadith confirms something and a hadith would negate something, which one comes first? The one confirms it. Why? Because the confirming is extra knowledge. I'll give you an example. Person left this masjid or this masjid, and somebody outside asking, did you see, for example, Dr. Saeed? So the person, he said, no, I did not see him. Another person came out. That person asked the other person, did you see Dr. Saeed? He said to him, yes. Both of the two people who said yes and no are trustworthy. Which one should that person take as the verdict, the correct verdict? The one who said yes or the one who said no? Why? Because the one who said no, he might not have seen him. So the one who confirmed, he's got extra knowledge, always. And that is why Imam Ibn Hazm, he said, وَأَخْذُ الزِّيَادَاتِ فَرْضٌ لَا يَجُوزُ تَرْكُهُ. And that is to take the extra, it is fard, compulsory. You should not leave it. Because the ziyada, حُكْمٌ قَائِمٌ بِنَفْسِهِ. Because the extra bit, it is a rule in itself. It's an entity. It's a rule by itself. رواه من عالم. The one who knows it, he will narrate it. وَلَا يَضُرُّهُ سُكُوتُ مَنْ لَمْ يَرْوِهِ عَنْ رِوَايَتِهِ. And he will not be affected by those ones who did not narrate that, for example, that thing which is raising up of the hands, just like all and the rest of the ahkam. There's no difference. So always al-muthbat muqaddam ala nafi. This is a principle. I've learned it a long time ago. Any person, he gives the extra. You say in Arabic, Shaykh Al-Albani says, al-hukmu liz-zaidi faz-zaid. Liz-zaidi faz-zaid. As long as this ziyana does not contradict. If it contradicts, then it will be shadda. Do you understand that? As long as the ziyada doesn't contradict. For example, Wa'il ibn Hujr radiallahu anhu, he narrated the hadith, and this narration came from different narrations. And all of them trustworthy, that the Prophet of Allah, whenever he sits down for the tashahhud, رَفَعَ أُصْبَعَهُ أو أصبعه. رَفَعَ أُصْبَعَهُ, then this is the usba. Usbu' or usba', both are correct. So, this is, he raised up his hand. So he raised up his finger. There is another one from a narrator, Ibn Za'idah, his name, that goes to Wa'il ibn Hujr, where he adds what? He used to move it. Now, this Za'idah as well is what? Thiqah. Now, the Shaykh Al-Albani says that this is not contradicting, because the one who moves is what? Already what? Raising. Do you understand that? So it does not contradict. One that says that he raised it up, and the other one, he raised it up and moved it. There's another narration which says he did not move it. That is unauthentic. So the authentic narrations, it came from Wa'il ibn Hujr. One that says he raised it, and one narration from Za'idah, which he is thiqah. Thiqah means trustworthy. He said he what? Moved it. So al-hukm is Zaid. The extra bit will take what? The rule. So that means he had, because when the person moves, he's already what? Raising. But if you raise and you don't move, you did not take the movement, which is less. وَجَبَ الْأَخْذُ بِالزِّيَادَةِ. You have to take the extra bit. So he says, I have said now, at the end of it, وَكَانَ أَحْيَانًا. He used to sometimes raise up his hands for that sujood. So it's not all the time. Why the Shaykh Al-Albani said sometimes? Anybody like to tell me? We have the hadith that say that the Prophet of Allah used to raise up his hand whenever he goes to sujood. Yes? Right. Why the Shaykh Al-Albani didn't say all the time, like Takbirat al-Ihram, like when we go into ruku', while we're lifted up from the ruku'. So, Allahu Akbar for ruku', and Sami'a Allahu liman hamida Rabbana wa lakal hamd. That is what? You do it. Takbirat al-Ihram, you do it. So all of those are confirmed to raise up your hands. But in this issue, why the Shaykh, he says sometimes, to understand the fiqh of the Shaykh rahmatullah alayhi, he says, verily, if it was all the time, then those ruwah, the narrators, who narrated all the time the prayer of the Prophet of Allah, they would have talked about it. It's only very few from amongst what? A lot. So to make the ahadith all of it functioning, that those companions and the other ones did not see him raising up the hands, and the other ones saw him raising up the hands. So what is the gathering of these two, synchronizing? What do? You say that sometimes he used to raise up the hands. That's why those companions saw him raising up the hands, and the other ones, sometimes he did not what? Raise up the hands. So the ones who saw him raising up the hands, which are very few, they are what? Narrated that. And the ones who all the time see the Prophet of Allah, narrated most of the ahadith, did not see him raising up the hands for going down to the sujood. So we say, sometimes you raise up the hands. It is not like Takbirat al-Ihram. You don't say sometimes you raise up your hands with Takbirat al-Ihram. You have to do it what? All the time. When you go to the ruku', all the time, in contrast to whom? To the Hanafi. Hanafi madhab. Never mind they say that this is raising up the hands. They say even saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, and to stay up is not a pillar. So you could just go from ruku' to what? To sujood. And your prayer is still what? Valid. According to whom? Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi. And that is, I'm going to tell you later on, when I finish all of that, the story of Abu Hanifa. Somebody he wants to tell the Khalifa what is Abu Hanifa's prayer. So what he did, he put a skin of an animal and he put some wine on top of it, and then he did Fatiha. He just said ثم عبس ثم نظر, just ثم نظر, when he went down to ruku' and then he went down to sujood. He said this is Abu Hanifa's prayer. That means the minimum of that prayer, it isn't acceptable for Abu Hanifa, which is incorrect. All or most of the scholars, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Hanbal, Imam Malik, and all of those scholars, they said what? It is what? A pillar, as we're going to establish now. In fact, it is a pillar. That is to say, to stay up, Sami Allahu liman hamidah. You have to say, Rabbana lakal hamd. It's a pillar to stand, firm. Because the Prophet of Allah, he said, La tujzi. It is not going to be complete. Remember we talked about it? He says, La yanzurullah. Allah do not look at the person who does not make his back straight. لا ينظر الله إلى عبد لا يقيم صلبه في الصلاة في ركوعها أو في سجودها. He does not straighten up his back when he goes from the سمع الله لمن حمده. Allah will not look at him. If Allah does not look at you, it means your prayer is what? Invalid. That means your prayer is not maqbula. It's not really accepted. It's not valid. Alright. Coming back now to the خرور إلى السجود على اليدين. Subtitle please. It's a subtitle, isn't it? No.
Going down into the sajda on the hands.
So this is all of it underneath the what? The sujood. All of it underneath the sujood. Right.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to place his hands on the ground before his knees.
Right. He used to place his hands on the ground before his knees. Would you like to tell me if there is a footnote that we need to read?
Okay, next one. This one just references.
You sure? There's a reference. There's Al-Imam Al-Awza'i, he said, I have seen the people, they putting their hands before their knees. No, in that footnote?
And this one.
Yes. Go on.
So,
I'll just read Imam Al-Awza'i.
After the references,
it was narrated Al-Mirwazi in his Masail,
saying, I found the people placing their hands before their knees.
Okay. Right now, this is one hadith, which is, it says, that is, كان يضع يديه على الأرض قبل ركبتيه. Right. Now go to the second one.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to instruct likewise, saying, when one of you performs sajda, he should not kneel like a camel, but should place his hands before his knees.
Arabic, إذا سجد أحدكم فلا يبرك كما يبرك البعير وليضع يديه قبل ركبتيه. Give me the footnotes. A long one, I think.
Yeah. Abu Dawood, Tamam
al-Fawaid,
and Nasai in Sunan al-Sughra and Sunan al-Kubra with Sahih Isnad. Abdul Haq declares it Sahih in Al-Ahkam and went on to say in Kitab al-Tahajjud, it is a sounder isnad than the previous one. That is the hadith of Wa'il, which is the other way around, knees before hands. In fact,
I will tell you later on, inshallah, there is a hadith which says that he put the knees before the hands, and that hadith is unauthentic, as we're going to see, inshallah. So he says,
in fact, the latter hadith, as well as being contradictory to the Sahih hadith and the preceding one, is neither authentic in isnad nor in meaning, as I have explained in Silsila
Al-Da'ifa 929 and Al-Irwa 357. Now, go ahead.
It should be known that the way to differ from the camel is...
This is very important to understand that. Okay.
It should be known that the way to differ from the camel is to place the hands before the knees, because the camel places its knees first. A camel's knees are in its forelegs, as defined in Lisan al-Arab.
Forelegs is what I mean? The front. In Arabic it says fi yaday, which is the four legs, because there's no hands for a camel, is there? Camel's got 4 legs, isn't it? We say camel's 4 legs. We don't say it. Have you ever seen a camel saying Assalamu alaikum with his hand? Got 4 legs. He doesn't have a hand and 2 legs, he walks on it. Got 4 legs. So he says here that his knees are in the front legs of his. In Arabic, وَهُمَا فِي يَدَيْ. Now,
and the other books of Arabic language.
لسان العرب, كتب اللغة, تاج العروس, and others as well. نعم.
Also, Imam Qasim al-Saraqasti, rahimahullah.
السرقسطي, and also Tahawi Mushkil al-Athar, Sharh al-Ma'ani. Also, he rated in Gharib al-Hadith. Go on, with the authentic chain, Abu Hurairah.
Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu statement, no one should kneel the way a runaway camel does. And then added, this is in sajda. He is saying that one should not throw oneself down as a runaway or untamed camel does, hurriedly and without calmness, but he should go down calmly, placing his hands first, followed by his knees, and an explanatory marfu' hadith has been narrated in this regard. He then mentioned above.
Right, so we're up to here. Now I'm going to explain to you exactly the way I explained to you how you put the right on the left is bid'ah. It's not from the sunnah. After the ruku', I'm going to explain this to you until you understand which is the right way to put the knees first or to start with the hands. And you can, inshallah, will clarify in a minute. But let's just go to what Ibn al-Qayyim, rahmatullah, he is the reason for our shuyukh like Sheikh Ibn Baz or Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, where they say you go into your knees first before you go into your hands. Go ahead.
As for Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah's extremely strange statement, these words are incomprehensible and not understood by the experts of the language. It is answered by the sources which we have mentioned and also many others which can be consulted. I have also expanded on this in the refutation against Sheikh Tuwaijiri, which may be published.
Right, it is being published. Now let's just go to the hadiths regarding putting the hands or the knees first. Okay, this is now Abdullah ibn Umar, which hadith Ibn Khuzaymah narrates. That is, he used to put his hands on the floor, on the ground, قبل ركبتيه, before his knees. Shaykh Al-Albani, he says, there are some ahadith which oppose this hadith, and I would like to narrate them in order to make sure that this person who is not knowledgeable, not to be deceived by them. لِأَلَّا يَغْتَرَّ بِهَا مَنْ لَا عِلْمَ عِنْدَهُ. The one who's got no knowledge. First one, رَأَيْتُ عَنْ وَائِلِ بْنِ حُجْرٍ. I have seen that. This is the Wa'il ibn Hujr hadith. You remember? He said Wa'il ibn Hujr. Wa'il ibn Hujr. I have seen the Prophet ﷺ, if he prostrates, he would put his knees before his hands. And when he goes up, he would lift up his hands before his knees. Narrated by Abu Dawud, Nasai, Tirmidhi, and Tirmidhi says it's Hasan. Shaykh Al-Albani, after a long discussion, he shows that this hadith, it is da'if in its chain. It is sanad da'if. Second hadith. So the first one is in Abu Dawud, which is Wa'il ibn Hujr. Because Wa'il ibn Hujr, he's got two narrations. One narration says he's to put the what? The hands before the knees. This one, which is unauthentic, as I said. Second one. And Anas, I have seen the Prophet of Allah. He went down with takbir, his knees preceded his hands. سبقت ركبتاه يديه. Ad-Daraqutni, and the hadith is not authentic. Shaykh Al-Albani said, even if it is authentic, there is not a clear indication that the knees went on the floor. It says here that the knees preceded the hands. That means maybe in the movement. But which one had reached the floor first, that hadith is not clear cut to talk about that the knees went onto the floor. Do you understand that? This hadith says that the knees preceded the hands. They could be preceding them each other by the what? By the movement. Then he started with the knees to move and then he moved the hands. But which one had reached the floor first? It doesn't talk about it. But this hadith, if it is authentic, it is not authentic. And this is what Ibn Hazm rahmatullahi alayhi as well supported. Third one, Abu Hurairah. Write down just the narrator that you could understand. Abu Hurairah's hadith that the Prophet ﷺ used to, when he makes sujood, he would start with his knees before his hands. Al-Tahawi, and this hadith with consensus, ضعيف جدا. Very weak. The fourth one and the last one, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. He used to say that we used to put our hands before the knees, then we'd be commanded to put the knees before the hands. Unauthentic. Al-Hazimi, he says, great scholar, he said the knowledgeable people had differed regarding this issue. Some of them, they went to put the hands before the knees, and they said this is right. And this is what Malik سَأَلَ الْأَوْزَاعِي. And he said, I have, Awza'i, seen the people putting the hand before the knees, which you have in your book here. But others had differed. And they said, the knees first before the hands. And some, he says, one of them is Umar ibn Khattab, and also Sufyan al-Thawri, and al-Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad, and Ishaq, wa Abu Hanifa, and his companions. Shaykh Al-Albani says, the reason that those Shafi'i, Ahmad, Ishaq, Abu Hanifa had said that is what we have narrated just before the 4 hadiths. I'm going to narrate it again. Wa'il ibn Hujr, we said, Anas, Abu Hurairah, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Those hadith, it was for them the reason they have said that. And if it was authentic, we would have said you could do both, which is putting the knees first or putting the hands first, which is one of the riwayah of Imam Malik and also one of the riwayah of Imam Ahmad. They said you could do both. But because it is not authentic, then we will go to the ones who said that the hands first, because the hadith regarding this issue is clear cut. Now, this is being narrated by Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullah. Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullah, this hadith, which is the hadith of Abu Hurairah, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if one of you is to prostrate, then this is the hadith which is sahih, let him not to imitate the what? The camel. Let him put his hands before his knees. فَلْيَضَعْ يَدَيْهِ قَبْلَ رُكْبَتَيْهِ وَلَا يَبْرُكُ بُرُوكَ الْبَعِيدِ. As what is Tahawi and Al-Bayhaqi has narrated as in Zad of Abu Hurairah, which is the other way around. If one of you to prostrate, let him start with his knees before his hands, and let him not to imitate the camel. Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar, he said, just like Al-Bayhaqi, da'if, unauthentic. Shaykh Al-Albani said, no, it's not da'if, even very weak, da'if jiddan. Why? Because Abdullah ibn Sa'id, he is al-Maqburi, and he's well known to be a person who's been abandoned when there is a narration regarding al-Maqburi. And some of them, they said that he is a liar. And that is why he had, deliberately maybe, had made the hadith the other way around. So this hadith is an authentic, very weak. Now, it is not really, I'm being astounded or being sort of astonished or what is, or this person is to be a liar, but I'm astonished what Ibn al-Qayyim had said in the Zad. So he says that the hadith of Abu Hurairah, which where he says that the knees goes first, is the sahih. And the other one, where it says the hands goes first, he says that this is maybe somebody from the narrators had got it the other way around. And he made a mistake. And he should have said the knees first before the hands. Are you following me or not? Okay. Just like the Maqburi, he said. So he had taken this madhab. Why? Because for him, the hadith cannot go with the ma'qul, cannot be rational. Because the end of it contradicts the beginning of it. What is the end of it? And let him not to imitate the what? The camel. But this is according to what Ibn al-Qayyim imagines, which is that, you know when the camel, you know you're not Bedouins, I know I'm going to tell you, when the camel goes down, whether he's running or he wants to kneel down, that's just got 4 legs. Which one goes first? The front ones or the... Have you seen them or not? Which one goes first? The front one or the back ones? Front one, you're not a Bedouin. The front one goes. Then the back. So he parks, chick, and then the one at the back. Right. So those are the ones who said, do not imitate the camel. They said, if you go with your hands, which is your front ones, you haven't got 4 legs, have you? You've got 2 hands and 2 legs. You've got 2 hands and 2 legs. So if you go with the front ones, which is your hands, that means you're imitating the what? The camel. But the Prophet of Allah, he said, let him put his what? Hands, and do not go down with like the camel, because the camel goes with what? With his knees. He didn't say with his hands. It is what? Knees. And the knees of the camel are in the front ones. So what are the ones which are called at the back? We're going to come to that. There is 4 legs. The knees in the front, because all the time the person goes with the camel goes with his knees. It's the strongest part in the camel, or with his knees. So what are the back ones called? Let me just tell you in a minute. Qadi says that Ibn al-Qayyim had adopted this because for him, he cannot imagine that the person not imitating the camel if he goes down with his knees. But if he goes with his hand, he will be imitating the camel. Because of what he says, And then he says, كلام لا يعقل. It's not really right. And lugha, people of that language, they don't know it. And actually we have just seen that the people of the lugha, the scholars of the language, they have actually confirmed that the knees of any four-legged animal is in the front legs. Do you understand that? Any four-legged animals, أي حيوان يمشي على أربع وركبه في مقدمتيه في قدميه أو يديه الأماميتين. واضح؟ أي حيوان يمشي على أربع. Any four-legged animal, his knees in the front legs. This is all, like تاج العروس, as I said, and لسان العربي بالمنظور and others. And he says, Al-Imam Al-Tahawi, he says, rahimahullah, regarding Al-Mushkil. Al-Mushkil means to reconcile between the problems that arises between hadith conflicting with one another. He says regarding this issue, قال قال, a person said, it isn't impossible. Because the Prophet of Allah, he told him not to go down like the camel goes down. But he should go with his hand. This is impossible. Then he says, but for verily, he had actually told him that because every four-legged animal, his rukbata, his knees are in the front ones. Who said that? Imam Al-Tahawi, rahimahullah, in Al-Mushkil. And Banu Adam, بخلاف ذلك. Son of Adam are different. لأن ركبتهم في أرجلهم لا في أيديهم. Their knees are in their legs, they're not in their hands. So the Prophet ﷺ, he forbade the person who is praying to go onto his knees first, because these are in his, it goes on his knees because it's in his hand, and nothing go different. That is, let him go in his hand first, which are not in his knees. I mean, he's making a mistake here maybe. So, بخلاف ما يخر البعير, different from the camel. The camel, when he goes with his front, is going on his knees. So when we go, we don't go on our knees with our legs, but we go with our hands. So that is what Al-Imam Al-Tahawi had said. Then he says, in Lisan al-Arab, he says, وَرُقْبَةُ الْبَعِيرِ فِي يَدِهِ, and the knee of the ba'ir, the camel, in his hands, in his front ones. وَرُقْبَتَا يَدَيِ الْبَعِيرِ الْمَفْصِلَانِ اللَّذَيْنِ يَلِيَانِ الْبَطْنِ, the ones which are next to his belly. إِذَا بَرَكْ أَمَّا الْمَفْصِلَانِ النَّاتِئَانِ مِنْ خَلْفِ, as for those who are like the knees at the back, the back legs, فَهُمَا الْعَرْقُوبَانِ أو الْعُرْقُوبَانِ. عُرْقُوب. So the ones that are in the back called what? عُرْقُوب. So you got rukbah, and urqub. So they're not knees. And this is what the lugha. And then he says, even the companions, they understood that. There is a hadith which is authentic. This is Umar al-Khattab, radiallahu anhu. It is being narrated by Al-Qamah and Al-Aswad. They are the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. قال عن عمر رضي الله عنه حفظنا عن عمر في صلاته أنه خر بعد ركوعه على ركبتيه كما يخر البعير ووضع ركبتيه قبل يديه. Look at the understanding companion. We have learned from Umar al-Khattab that when in his prayer, that he went down when he went down from his ruku' and Sami Allah liman hamid, he went down to the sujood onto his knees first, just like the camel goes down. And he started with his knees before his hands. So Umar al-Khattab, whether he was doing it all the time or whether he was doing it because he's got something wrong or whatever, but the companions, they said, just like the what? The camel. He said that Umar al-Khattab, we've seen him in his prayer, going down with his knees first, just like the camel, they say. So they know that the camel goes with what? With his knees first. So the Prophet of Allah said, don't be like the what? The camel. The Prophet of Allah even asked us not to imitate any other animal. So when the camel, when he goes down, now listen another one from the Shaykh Al-Albani. Listen to it, mashallah. He said, when the camel goes down, he will go down with strength. يَبْرُكُ بِقُوَّةٍ. And you know when the camel goes down, I have a boom. The land goes like that. And every person who prays, when he goes down on his knees, for verily there will be a lot of noise. He says, especially when the person, he finds in a masjid where the floor is made of wood, and the people who are making the prayer, they make in congregation, they're going to the sujood, you could fear that what? A big bang thrown up. A big bang, which is, the big bang I'm talking about, the big bang of the camel, not the big bang of, okay? You hear about big bang, boom. And you've seen them out there, they go on their knees. So he says, the Prophet of Allah, and he said, this goes against the salah and the khushu' in the salah. Salah is not to be noise, do, da, do. It's not like that. Salah is calm against the khushu' of the salah. The Prophet of Allah, that is why he prohibited us to do this, but to start with the hands, so that he will meet the earth with it, and then he will evade what? The collision between his knees, the harsh collision between his knees and the floor. So it's like suspension. You're sucking, you are absorbing the shock, isn't it? Because you're landing, imagine you're landing. So if you land on your knees, boom! And that's like the camel. Just like the camel, he says. This is why we've been prohibited not to look like the camel. And I'll tell you what. He says, the Shaykh Al-Albani rahmatullahi alayhi, he says as well, this will evade him as well, the harm. Subhanallah. Because when you go to your knees, it will avoid him as well, the harm. And Al-Imam Malik rahimahullah, I like what Imam Malik said. This is the sifa which is closer to the khushu', to start with the hands. And this is what Ibn Munir had said. That is to start with the hands, to meet the earth, in order that as well your face goes down properly. And there's no harm to your knees. You know that the Masjid of the Prophet of Allah is not carpet. Underneath the carpet there's an underlayer. There's no such thing. You know the Masjid of the Prophet of Allah? Stones. You try to land the same way that you land on your knees. I guarantee the second prayer you'll be in the hospital. I'm not joking. Let those who start with the knees, put them in a masjid where the carpet is not there, just normal floor. They're not going to go with their knees. Unless they're ajal, slowly absorb the shock. But if it is stones, chips, they'll break their knees. They'll have a kneecap. True or not? And that's from the Shaykh Mashur rahimahullah. Shaykh Mashur told us, imagine your carpet is not carpet, it's stones. Those people who say you start with the knees, I don't think they're going to do that knees. They're going to change their mind straight away. So the shock absorbers with your hand. You land, and you can see that much. When you get old, like me, I have noticed that it is very hard for me to go with my knees. And if you got a belly sticking out about 5-6 inches, it's almost impossible. True or not? Yeah. You'll be big belly. You'll be collapsing. So you have to start shock absorbers with your hands and then your knees. That's how it goes. You're landing. It's a landing. So every time you land, it's a smooth land. Allahu A'lam. Fa'idah, he says. Benefit. This hadith indicates it's a must. And I can't find anyone who had declared it's a must obligatory except for Ibn Hazm al-Muhalla. And they should not leave it. And that is why we say it is a proof to indicate the mistake that the Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, which he had narrated to us, that there is consensus to do both, which is, that is to, no problem to go on the knees or on the hands. Maybe the Shaykh ibn Taymiyyah, when he made his fatwa, he was not looking into the text, because you remember all his fatwa was without any references. It's from his mind, from his memory. So he did not have his books around him to give what he wanted to give. So Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he said that there's a consensus, and this consensus is wrong, because Imam Ibn Hazm, which is before Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he says it's a must that you have to land onto your hand, not onto your knees. Now, subtitle please, Sifatus Sujood, how to prostrate. After this, before the third hadith, Sifatus Sujood, which you haven't got there. Prostration description, or description of the prostration. And go ahead now. That's why I said to you to hold.
How to prostrate. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam also used to say, verily the hands prostrate as the face prostrates. So when one of you places his face on the ground, he should place his hands, and when he raises it, he should raise them.
So let him put his hands on where? On the ground. And when he raises them, let him raise them so together. This has nothing to do with going onto your hands, isn't it? It's nothing to do with your hands first and then the knees. It's to do with how you put your hands when you prostrate. So let's just go again as well for another hadith. Go ahead.
Here, our subtitle, the sajda described.
Maybe that's supposed to be
Like
there.
there, yeah.
Yes. Before that hadith.
Before that.
Yeah.
He sallallahu alayhi wasallam would support himself on his palms and spread them and put his fingers together and point them towards the qibla.
Right, so when he makes his sujood, his hands are first of all together, so they're like, there's no space in between the fingers, and they are pointing towards the qibla, and also that he used to depend upon them. So he would do like this towards the qibla when he makes a sujood. Go ahead.
There's a short note that Ibn Abi Shayba have related the pointing of the toes in different narration.
Haven't got that one, but this doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Also, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would put them, his palms, level with his shoulders and sometimes level with his ears.
So these hands, so they are towards the qibla, and now they are in terms of where you put them away from your head or from the back or in the front. He says no, hadwa min kabir, that is almost parallel to his shoulders, and sometimes in parallel to his what? To his ears. Exactly what you raise up what? Your hands for takbirat al-ihram. Exactly the same thing. So like this or like that. Like this or like that. So you put them like this. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam would put his nose and forehead firmly on the ground.
So it's firmly on the ground. Now this is very important. So when I put my head, I have to touch my nose. لا صلاة لمن لم يمس أنفه الأرض. There's no prayer for the person who does not touch his nose into the ground. So I need to make sure that if I'm praying on a mattress, which has got like a cushion, that I've got a firmness. I'm not wobbling. If I'm wobbling, then my prayer is not going to be accepted. So if you're praying on let's say a mattress which is full of water. You've seen these water mattresses? There's water mattresses. Yes? And there's air mattresses as well. Those ones, you're not going to reach into a firmness, and that is why you're going to be wobbling. And that's not right. You have to be qad. So anything that is in the cushion has to be pressed properly. So this carpet is pressed. But if it's like, for example, a carpet which got like a sponge, which is that high, where you wobble, then your prayer, your sujood will not be affirmed, as the Prophet ﷺ had said. Now, how far do you put your hands away from your knee, from face? This is now where you don't find it in your book, which is how far you put your hands from your head. There is, let me just first of all catch up with you here with the, okay. So to do this, right. There is, the Prophet ﷺ, when he used to put his hands from his head, he will not put them close to his head. That's not authentic. Some people, you've seen them, when they put their hands, they're almost, their faces touches what? Their hands in the sujood. So when they put their head between their hands, they put them like that. Almost touching. And this is a danger of, that your nose will not be touching, or your forehead will not be touching the floor, the ground. So you make sure that you're touching. So how far should I be doing it? The normal way that when you raise up your hands, how do you raise up your hands? You raise up your hands like that, or like this, or like that. Like this is the normal. So the way that you raise up your hand is the way that you put the hand on the floor. So it is not like this. So I'm not going to put my hand like this when I make sujood. And it's not like this. You don't raise up your hands like this, and it's like that. So if you're doing like this, then I will, exactly the same thing, I will put this, so like natural. So they are, like that. I'm talking about the shoulder, I'm talking about how close to your head. So they're not like this away from your head, it's not close to your head like that. When you put them inside, it's actually, that's not the way you raise up your hands. Okay? Like that. That's how you put your sujood head. Go ahead.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the one who prayed badly, when you prostrate, then be firm in your prostration. In one narration, when you prostrate, put your face and hands down firmly until all of your bones are relaxed in their proper places.
Go ahead.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam also used to say, there is no prayer
Let me
for
say them in
the,
Arabic. إذا سجدت فمكن لسجودك إذا أنت سجدت فأمكنت وجهك ويديك حتى يطمئن كل عظم منك إلى موضعه. And then he said لا صلاة لمن لا يصيب أنفه من الأرض ما يصيب الجبين. نعم.
there is no prayer for the one whose nose does not feel as much as the ground as the forehead.
Go ahead.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to put his knees and toes down firmly, point with the front of the toes towards the Qibla, put his heels together, keep his feet upright, and ordered likewise.
Right. How many limbs? Go ahead.
Hence, there are 7 limbs on which he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would prostrate: the palms, the knees, the feet, and the forehead and nose, counting the last 2 as one limb in prostration, as he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have been ordered to prostrate. In one narration, we have been ordered to prostrate on 7 bones on the forehead. And he...
Oh, just hold on a second. Can you just tell me, after you had said that he will lift up his foot, raise up his foot, and he commanded this, and كان يفتح أصابعهم. I want the translation of that. What did he say? Go to number 9.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, there is no prayer for the one whose nose does not feel as much of the ground as the forehead.
Okay, go ahead after that.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to put his knees and toes down firmly,
Okay.
point with the front of the toes towards the Qibla,
Okay.
put his heels together,
Yep.
keep his feet upright,
Correct.
and ordered likewise.
You didn't say anything after that?
No, then the 7 bones.
Ah, see? There's not. Have you in Arabic?
There's a footnote about toe.
Go on, say what?
Says Bukhari Abu Dawud related from Ibn Umar that he liked to point whatever of his body he could towards the Qibla when praying, even his thumbs.
It's not that one I'm talking about. I'm talking about, that's something else you're talking about. I'm talking about وَكَانَ يَفْتَخُ أَصَابِعَهُ. Do you have that in Arabic? Who's got Arabic? And that? You got it in your Arabic book? Huh? No, not even in the Asr, even the normal. عندك ولا ما عندك? That's the one I'm calling. Yeah, add that into your English. Correct. And he used to bend his toes. So the yaftah means when he press on his toes will go towards what? The Qibla. This is the fath. Fath. So it is like bending the joint. Bending the joint. Fath. Is it English there? It's not there. Maybe you didn't understand it. Because he was translating the latest version, by the way. This person. What is in footnote they say, please, Abdul Qadir?
I have to do the same in the chamber, I believe pointing of the toes in a different direction.
It's pointing toes, not bending toes.
Bending toes is not pointing the toes. Pointing the toes is still there. Pointing the toes to the Qibla, we know that. Say bending the toes. You know bending it? So you press on the toes, that's how they point to the Qibla, by bending it. It's called fath. Okay, that's not there. It's supposed to be not in the footnote, my dear. It's supposed to be in the asl, in the matan. Fine. Now these are the 7. What are the 7 now? 7 limbs that have to touch when you make sujood. The 2 palms, 1, 2. The 2 knees, 3, 4. The 2 toes, left and right, that's 5 and 6. And the 7th is forehead and the nose. So this is 1. 2. So for the women, for the sisters. Forehead and the nose is 1. Right hand, palm, left palm, that's 2, 3. So right palm, left. And then right knee, left knee, that's 4, 5. And then right toe, left toe, that's 6, 7. Alright? Those are the 7 limbs you have to do. So if any person, when he's prostrating, he's putting the right or the left of the foot on top of the other, then he's got 6. Because one of the toes will be touching and the other one is what? Hanging on top of the other one. You know, they do it, but they do a lot. And that is invalid sujood. Will invalidate his prayer. So when you're teaching people who done this after the prayer, brother, or even when he's praying, you could separate his feet, at least to make his feet touching. They are not touching, it's a problem. Separate them even if he's praying. As long as, you know, if you think that he's not going to punch you. after the prayer. Right, go ahead.
As he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have been ordered to prostrate, and in one narration, we have been ordered to prostrate on 7 bones on the forehead, and he indicated by moving his hand around his nose, and the hands in one version, the palms and the knees and the toes, and not to tuck up the garments and hair. There's a note.
Okay, go ahead.
On not to tuck up.
Yep.
To draw them in and prevent them from being scattered, meaning to gather the garment or hair with the hands for ruku' and sujood.
Tuck in the garments like that. This is tucking the garments. You're not making them in sujood. So you're rolling your sleeve. Nakfi to thiyah. This is not really right to do it before you enter the prayer. So everything has to be what? Prostrating along with you. Okay? Now if you as well got your trousers, you should not have. Let's say you've got a sarwal, which is really long. Don't as well tuck it by making it rolling up. So it's not right. What should I do just below the ankles? I should really cut it. But if I can't cut it, then I would raise it up. So every time I go down to the floor, I would make sure that in the prayer, كنت أتعاهد, like Abu Bakr used to pull it. So he used to pull it. Or you could put it inside the socks if you have socks. No problem. If you have socks, put them inside the socks. But to roll them up, it's not right. نهى رسول الله عن كف الثياب. As for the sha'r is the one which is prostrating with you. So the person when he's have his sha'r, is well ma'qus, which is marbut, he has to be letting it go. In the prayer you should let it go because it's prostrating along with you. And don't make it, it's like a person who's handcuffed. It's exactly the same thing with a person who's got what is hair which is tied up. So if it's a sister, it's underneath her scarf, no problem. But if it's a brother, so if it's a sister, it's underneath the scarf, no problem. Teacher would loosen her hair and put the scarf on top of it. The brother, he doesn't have to cover his hair, but it's a sunnah to have the topi. So if you have a topi here and you have a hair, so loosen that hair because that hair prostrates with you. That hair what? Prostrates with you. After that, you're allowed to make tying up the hair as long as you don't imitate the woman. Imitation of the woman can be done as well by making a plaited hair or a tie-up. That's an imitation for the woman. We should not really imitate it. No problem. The Prophet used to have hair up to his shoulders. He used to cut it as well up to his earlobes as well. And used to have jumma, mashallah, big hair, but used to have all of it underneath his imamah. So it's not shown. So those people who are from the youth taking that sunnah to have a long hair, because the Prophet of Allah is not that imitating the sunnah, they want to have their long hair so they could do like this, like this, to raise it up. They say the sunnah. Muhammad did not do like this. So this is, and I'm saying this because it has came to the attention of Sheikh Al-Albani. They wrote him a question from Saudi Arabia a long time ago, and the question is documented, alhamdulillah, and then we could really seek knowledge from it. That is the fatwa of Sheikh Al-Albani regarding that the madrasa teacher, he said that lots of students will tell them to cut their hair, and they say the sunnah is to have a long hair. And then the teacher will ask him for them to cut their hair. So is that against the sunnah or not? So the Sheikh Al-Albani makes about 3, 4, 5 pages of that to answer. Really, and he said that this is not really the sunnah that they are. This is sunnah ada. It's not sunnah of ibadah. Sunnah ada? Ada means that the people, what is their customs? So their custom these days that a person, for example, with long hair is not right. Imagine if I come now to you like this, I'm teaching you. I mean, it doesn't really suit a sheikh. It doesn't suit a person who is knowledgeable. Okay? So, it suits a pop star, singer, or something like this, but I'm not a performer. So, it's a sunnah. Also, the time of the Prophet of Allah, that some of the companions to come with what? Their buttons undone like this. Okay? So, this is one of the companions called Muawiyah, not Nabi Sufyan, yes, Al-Kindi. He used to walk like this, so it's undone, because he saw the Prophet doing it. Now, that was a adah. If I do like this, coming to you like this, what is this guy? You coming to wrestle here or to teach you? Now imagine coming like this to you. So this is adah. So if somebody was going to do it, it's not really ibadah. It is not, because ibadah is something that is, you worship Allah Azza wa Jal with it. This is not right, because it does not suit the people these days. Okay? So whatever, Every area has got its own way. I remember one of the scholars, he used to live in Yemen. And in Yemen, you know that the Imam of theirs, they put it like, you know, that it's tied up and it's got like a tie from the back. There's one, have you seen them? The Imam of Yemen? Yemeni people? Have you ever seen them or not? The brothers are not looking at me, they don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, let me just say. Yemeni Imamah. This is the image of the Yemeni Imamah. Okay, images. Right, this is the Yemeni Imamah. Can you see it? Look. Can you see? That's the Yemeni Imamah. So that scholar used to have this Yemeni Imamah like that. Rat and then a tail at the back. When he came to the Sheikh Al-Albani and to Jordan, that Imamah is not really common to us. Straight away he loosened that Imamah and he became like what? Like you see the Jordanian and Saudi Arabians. Ghutra, like Ghutra. He straight away loosened it up. He looks different. So I said to the Sheikh, why do you do like this? He said, because I don't want to be called I'm doing or putting on libas shuhra. What is libas shuhra? Feigned clothes. You want to be distinguish yourself from the what? From the others. And I've learned this from that scholar, and I've learned it properly from Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah. One person who came from this country, he used to head the da'wah of the Salafiyya a long time ago. I don't want to mention his name. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fix him. So that is why we say, Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinika. So this person used to head the da'wah of Salafiyya at that time. I'm talking about back in about more than 20 years ago. And he used to put imamah like this and black. And he used to put boots, like army boots, you know. Okay. And the Afghani sarwar al-qamis. And the person sees him like he's mujahid in the street. You know, he's about to fight. Black imamah. So he wanted to see the sheikh. And I was the translator. And it was only 5 or 6 people in that place. Him and his friend who came, and Sheikh Al-Halabi, Sheikh Al-Albani, the one who records Al-Athari and me. And I'm just translating. Every time the translation comes, Sheikh Al-Albani says, Urtum. Urtum means speak in Rotan. Come on, Urtum. That means translate. Before the person came up with his questions, the Sheikh looked at him and he said, asked me, can you just ask him, why does he put this imam? The black one. So I asked him, and well spoken he is, that brother. He said, well, he was shocked when he was asked this question. He said, for 3 reasons. And because they are very good reasons, I never forgot them myself, because they're very good answers. So for 3 reasons. Number 1, because I thought they are the Sunnah. This is the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah, Imam. Reason number 2, because I want to be different from the kuffar. Number 3, Sheikh Al-Halabi came to us in the conference. He didn't say anything about the imamah. Even Sheikh Al-Albani was astounded with this answer. Again, he said, I thought this is the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah. Number 2, I want to be different from the what? The kuffar. Number 3, Sheikh Al-Halabi came there, he never said anything. He didn't really make any comment to say right or wrong. He said to him, well spoken. Well spoken. So he started with, he said, let me just now start with the first one. He said, the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah. And he started talking about the Sunnah of the Imamah and how the Prophet of Allah used to have Imam, which has got 2 ends in the front, like the Imamah that we see in the Saudi Arabian, one at the back. And this Imamah, as long as it is not distinguishing a firqa dalla, then you should not be putting it. So there's an Imamah which at the back distinguishes, for example, people who are on bid'ah and dalala. You should not put it because you're going to deceive other people that they are from the what? From that firqa. And then he talked about the imam that he used to see it. The Sufis, for example, used to have their imams. He said, you can't forget that imam in Dimashq, whom he's very thin. And he used to be in the mihrab. The mihrab, the mihrab, the one that they pray, which is the bid'ah, the mihrab where the imam prays in it. You see, very thin, but his imamah is huge. It's about triple his size. The man is very thin, got a small head, and the Imam of his, massive. So I can't forget that Imam of his, the Sheikh. As for the second one, regarding that you want to be different from the kuffar, Sheikh pointed to me. He said, him, which supposed to be like this, with an imam, normal imam. He said, does this distinguish you from the kuffar or not? He's pointing to me. He looked at me and that person, he said, yes, it does. He said, aren't you scared that whatever you are on with, distinguishing you from your own brothers? Do you understand that? You're not distinguishing yourself from the kuffar now. You're distinguishing yourself from what? Your own brothers. You're sticking up. All your brothers are the ones are not like you. This is Imam al-Pikir, it's a black one. No, remember it. Third one, as regarding for the third one, that Sheikh Al-Halabi, he went there and he did not make a commentary. Sheikh Al-Halabi is here. Ustad Ali, what do you think? Sheikh, I can't say anything when you are here. He was really scared. I can't say anything. So the person, Zawallahu Khair, said, he took it out. Took the Imam and put it down in front of us. He put it down as that's it, he's convinced. This happened a number of times. The Shaykh Al-Albani talks to the person, after he is convinced, then he will straight away adhere. And this is one of the things that I will document on video as well. And the other one, where we were in a trip, this comes as well along, we were in a trip and we were many, I can't remember, but we were many. And the Shaykh was talking from 9 o'clock in the morning until about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. We were having dinner and food and all of that, and then talks. And the Shaykh is addressing our questions. One of the people was as well from this country. He was next to me and he does not speak Arabic. But he was from an Asian background. Another person was an Asian background as well. His beard is really long. His beard is really long. That's up to his navel. Okay? So, the Shaykh asked me why he's got this. Translate, why he's got this long beard. So I asked him. So the person, he said, because Shaykh, I can't say anything, he was scared. He said, verily, but I know that the Prophet of Allah, he said, let go of your beard. And I know that Shaykh Ibn Baz, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he says that you should not touch the beard. So he started now, the Shaykh, talking about the beard. It's a long talk, but cut it short. He said, imagine your beard is one of those people whom is being narrated, Al-Qazwini. His beard was really long, and every time he goes into his camel, he goes two halves, half here and half there, reaching the floor. كانت لحيته تصل إلى الأرض. القزويني كانت لما يجلس على الجمل تنقسم إلى قسمين فرقة. وإذا نام كان يضعها في كيس. And every time he sleeps, he put it in a bag in case he's going to tangle with it. Imagine your beard is long, you're going to be tangled with it. So you put it in a bag, carry a bag, make sure that it's tucked in. Then the Shaykh came to the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, and he had said, Rawi al-Hadith alim. After that, the first thing he said, I'm convinced, Shaykh. So straight away he's convinced. Abu Layla, the one who's recording, he's got this bag, it's like a Samsung, a briefcase. He's got this everything. He's got a scissors in it. He said, I've got scissors, yalla. The person, he said, not now. Shaykh, are you convinced? He said, I'm convinced. Go ahead. Shut up. Straight away we cut it for him. I don't remember, me or Abu Layla, we cut the beard of his and made it like, which was a handful like that. I remember. So this is as well from the Shaykh Rahmatullah Ali. He's very keen to implement the Sunnah where there is a chance or an opportunity to do that. By this we'll stop, inshallah, and we will talk more about the sujood. And if you have any questions, please go ahead. Uncle is there? Okay, Uncle is there. Follow.
You say once you're standing and then you go down. When you see the Imam, sometimes you said it before you go to the sujood.
Takbir?
Before going
Takbir for the sujood. No problem to say it while you're going, before you go to the sujood. No problem. It's no problem. It's the problem with you at the back. You cannot bend your back until you see the Imam is fully on what? On the floor. So you're saying that he says Allahu Akbar, then he makes sujood. No problem. Just like the ruku'. So you could say Allahu Akbar and start, or Allahu Akbar while you're going. It's different from Sami Allahu liman hamidah. This is different. Sami Allahu liman hamidah, you have to say it while you are going. Because this is in the action of this. This is Allahu Akbar to start. You could say Allahu Akbar before you go down. You could say Allahu Akbar while you're going down, but you can't say Allahu Akbar when you are fully down. So you have the option to say it before, you have the option to say Allahu Akbar while, but you haven't got the option to say what? After you finish. As for Sami Allahu liman hamidah, it's different. Sami Allahu liman hamidah is the process of going like this. You don't say Sami Allahu liman hamidah and you raise up. Sami Allahu liman hamidah is a specialty between ruku' and between upright. That's a confusion maybe for you. Huh? Yeah. So this raising of the hands, the second one, you do it sometimes. How many people does this raising up the hands before he goes to sujood? I'm not saying Sami Allahu liman hamidah Rabbana lakal hamd. This is different. I'm talking about Allahu Akbar for. How many people does that? Nobody? You do it? So sometimes. Well, sometimes. So do it sometimes. So from now on, we're going to do it what? Sometimes. Sometimes we're going to do it. So we're going to do it sometimes, so you could really as well implement the hadith of, for example, hadith Al-Huwayrith, Nabi' ibn Huwayrith, hadith Anas radiallahu anhu, and the others. Now. Hang on. Uncle is there? Yalla.
I'm going to ask you something which I'm very shy to ask.
Okay.
Is to ask you to stand and demonstrate to us all the movements with the words, so that I can see.
Can you see, Uncle?
If I come near you 1 meter near.
No, I'm going to make a person next to you, shall I do it?
Okay.
Right, can you just make a space in front of you, brother? And you do it in front of the sujood. You want the sujood, isn't it, Uncle?
Starting with the ihram.
No, to put the hand, that's at the end of the prayer, Uncle. And when we finish. When we finish the whole chapter, we will do everything.
Okay.
So this is one for the sujood. Just go now from Rabbana. You are in Rabbana wa lakal hamd now. You're going to say Allahu Akbar for sujood. I want the raising of the hands this time. Can I? But Allah Akbar, is that right? That's not right. Kaf has to be like to the Qibla. You see, this is where we have to make the kaf, the bottom of the kaf, which is the end, the inside of your palm, to face up the Qibla. So those people who are this, who do like that, it's the same thing. So Allahu Akbar. No. I need to be like properly. Allahu Akbar. And every time, get yourself used to it. By the time you'll be doing it, like an act, it'll become part of you. But because now these days, Allahu Akbar, that's why you're not really tightening up the screws. So, Allahu Akbar, and go down the other.
Allah.
Yep. Correct. Now, can you just put the, no, it's not correct. Go down. Where is your, first of all, your hand, your fingers. I forgot your name, Sheikh Ferrero. I remember Ferrero, but I don't remember Ferrero. Where is your fingers towards the Qibla? And they are tight together. Correct. And your nose is touching? Okay, what about your heels at the back? They should be tucked together. Okay, now put them more up. Not like they're sleepy. That's it. More up. That's it. That's how we call يَفْتَخُ بَيْنَ أَصَابِعِهِ. So,
heel should touch, yeah?
sorry?
Only heel should touch, not the
Only the heel should touch.
Yeah.
No. Not only. I'm saying, you're saying to me, only the heel should touch. No. When the heel touch, naturally the other one will touch. I'm not saying only, I'm just saying, repeating your question. No. All of it will touch. Because you can't do like this. It has to be natural. So when the heel touches, that means all of it touching. So do it again. How we see Shaykh Al-Albani rahmatullah alayhi, he used to pray. All of it touching, right. Your fingers are not towards the Qibla, by the way. Yes. Towards the Qibla, correct. Are you comfortable, by the way? You haven't done it before. Okay, let me help you and you do it next to me. Okay. I'm going to watch you when you pray next time. Fix the prayer. So I'm asking now, Sami Allahu liman hamd. Okay? I'm Sami Allahu liman. So I'm really at the moment, Sami Allahu liman, my eyes are locked up into my prostration place. Very important. When I say Allahu Akbar, what's his name, Shakil asked me that some of the Imams do it before. That's the right thing, see. Says, I'm going to go down now, Allahu Akbar, and raise up my hand if I want. This is sometimes. So this is raising up my hands, like this. It's always like this, uncle. Not like that, not like this, it's like that. So this is almost in parallel. We're not going to be needing a ruler, uncle, to do it. But this is the comfortable way. This one will be in parallel to your earlobe, and this one will be in parallel to your what? Upper ears, like that. This is how, or see, like this, or like that. So like this, or like this. There's a small difference between this and that, but there is nothing like that. That's not right, because this one will be the thumb on parallel to the what? To the top of the ear. That's not right. So this is the maximum, where the fingers, the thumb goes to what? To the earlobe. So it does go like this, or go like that. Allahu Akbar, together, or without even raising the hands. And I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down. See, uncle? I'm bending my knees. Going down. So this is the way I open my hand. This is the way they're going to go down. So I'm not going like this, like some people they do. And some people do like that. You know how? Isn't that true? Yeah, some people do like this. I've seen them praying like this. The brother was praying behind me. Like that. It's not right. So I'm going to go again, down, landing, and then I'm going to go with my head. Now, when I make the sujood as well, we're going to see later on that my sujood is to be like this, not like that, or like this. Okay, it is like normal, where I'm not really, this is my back of mine. If I do like this, you see my back will not be proper. This spine will not be comfortable. If I do like that, it's not wrong. Sorry about this. So this is comfortable. This is my spine, is all of it straight. Okay, my straight. Okay, straight, it doesn't matter straight this way. Straight. The straight doesn't, straight, there's no bend in the middle. Right, this is that, this is it. Now, there's my feet like that, always. Look at the left one, go. And this is where my toes are pointing towards the Qibla. Everything to the Qibla. Also my arms, this one, there's nobody beside me. I'm back to do like this. Whether it's male or female, where a small little goat can pass underneath me. Like that. See? So, but if there's somebody next to me, I do like this. Then I want to noise in there. So I will not do like that. It's not right. Okay. Yes, sir, Mahmoud?
The fingers, does it have to be some spaces?
No. This is my finger, natural. Okay. So your finger, look, you're natural. But mine, if I do like this, it's good, harm me. It's my joint. Brothers, this is not the sunnah to do like this. It's my joint. This is always like this in me. See? This is my relaxation, if you understand. If I do like this, there's something there. I don't know what it is. I have to ask my mother why she did that. It should be closed. Should be closed. Closed with the thumb is away. It's called the wilad. Okay? Is that everybody happy with that? Jazakallah khairan. For the female and male, all the sisters who are making the prayer, the best thing for them when they do the prayer is that prayer mandil. The prayer mandil, I've seen it, mashallah, the sisters, they have it in their house. Straight away they put it, which looks like even the Somali mandil, which is outside. Straight away with it, and their heads to be loosened. That will cover the head. It should not be plaited, it should not be. But I'm not saying that every time you do the prayer you need to undo the plaited hair. Okay? But don't tie it up if it's being loosened. Now, follow. I've been told to lift up my hat every time I've been going to prostration. I've been told that as well when I was an unknowledgeable person. So a person came to me and said, you have to lift up your head in order that the forehead touches the floor. So I said to him, but the floor has got a carpet. Should we as well cut the carpet to make sure that the floor is touched? So what is the difference between having a carpet on the floor or I put the carpet on top of my head? Is there any difference? I'm asking, is there any difference? I could put the carpet on top of my head. So I would say to you, this has been said in as well the fiqh books, okay? Right? We don't have ever in the narration that the Prophet used to lift his hat in order to show that area. Yes, this area will go, there will be a mark, because if you're a person praying 5 daily prayers, never mind you pray you're going to have but there are people who deliberately start rubbing their forehead. to make a mark. And that's to show off. I'm not talking. You're joking. Wallahi. But people that do it to make sure that there is what? There's something there. That's not right. This is, by the way, on the day of resurrection, even if you are, mashallah, a rich person and you're praying all the time on a soft carpet, it doesn't really make a mark, that you will be known from the people of prayer, regardless whether you have the actual mark in this dunya or not. Do you understand that? So this mark will be on your forehead. It's not the actual of the skin rabies or skin sort of disease there or dry skin there. It's not because of that. Because you're a person who prays. And the person who prays will be known from his forehead, straight away. So this is alamatul sujood. Yes, alamatul iman, but sometimes you don't have it. You don't look. Some of the people, they don't have it. I know some of the brothers, mashallah. Okay, their head doesn't mean that they don't pray. No. But this is on the day of resurrection. It will be coming out. And it will be seen. And the person will be thrown in the fire. Yet he's not, he's from the people who praise. Everything will be burned except for what? The place of sujood. That place will not be touched by the fire. Now.
You mentioned regarding the sujood as to be up to the shoulders or ears, but sometimes we're squished so much in the Jumu'ah, for example.
If you squeezed in the Jumu'ah or any situation, you do what Allah says. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. Because some of times as well, when you are into squeeze, you could really prostrate on top of the back of your brother, which is where more, you could say, of something that you need to worry about. Somebody's prostrating on the back of his brother, or somebody who is being squeezed because he can't put his hands. Of course, prostrate on top of each other. So when you are having nose place, no problem. So that is, you have to really squeeze as much as you can. But I would say to the brothers that sometimes there is a space, but these people, they come and they extra squeeze. To the extent that the person, they start tilt himself and his chest away from the Qibla. That's not right. Your chest has to be to the close of the Qibla. You can't be playing like this and everybody playing like this. So like side parking. You know the parking with an angle. Parking with an angle. Can't be doing like this. I have to do like that. But what I could do, that I could really squeeze my hands like this. Because when I do like this, I'm doing extra bits from here and extra bit from there. So I just put my hand like this, so it could be only the shoulders. Alright? But don't do like that. Never. Don't take your head away from your Qibla, from the Qibla. So I would say, yes, makes taras, which is tight, but not too much tight, to the extent that you tell the people. And this is not really right. Now. Hang on.
Sheikh, just to elaborate on our friend's questions, sometimes when you are very close in sujood, and some brothers who are wide shouldered,
Like yours.
Yeah, is it possible you can like extend your sujood a little bit so that you don't disturb?
No problem, you extend a bit of your sujood. But extension a bit, remember. Or squeezing a bit, remember. So you try to ease your pressure. But the way I've done it, this is not extension. This is going for the gym. It's a press up. So these little bits of centimeters, inches, no problem. But mine, I was really doing it to show you the extreme. You can't do that extreme. It's not right. Okay. Now, please, can I have one last question? أنت أكبر وسنا بالأنكر.
ممكن في نفس الصلاة مرة ترفع مرة ما ترفعش، من ثلاث ركعات ترفع مرة ما ترفعش.
Can I raise up the hand sometimes in one rak'ah? We are talking about the situations where you can do that. But in takbirat al-ihram, you can't do that. In going to the ruku', you can't do that. In lifting up on the ruku'. As for the sujood, or even between the sajdas, then yes, sometimes you could do it.
In the same prayer.
Huh?
In the same prayer.
In the same prayer. One rak'ah you do it, one prayer. It's up to you. So no problem to differ in one prayer. He's saying, can I do the difference in one prayer? Wallahu a'lam, there is nothing that can stop me from saying no. He's saying, should it be different prayer that I don't raise up my hand? No. Sometimes one sajda raise up, the second sajda will not raise up my hand. So it's up to the person. You could do that. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.